Alexander Mercurio shared his plans on social media with other people he thought were ISIS sympathizers.
But the ongoing war in the Middle East has raised the threat of an attack against Americans in the United States.
If we're blinded from seeing what our adversaries are doing, who they're working with.
They want to welcome them in until they actually do come in. And then when they come in, they say, no, we don't want them.
Man from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho is in federal custody, charged with supporting ISIS and planning a suicide attack on churches.
FBI director urges vigilance. In a somber address to the House Appropriations Committee, FBI Director Christopher Wray underscored the critical need for robust resources to combat evolving terrorist threats against the U.S. Against the backdrop of recent events in the Middle East, including the October 7 Hamas attack on Israel and subsequent Israeli military action in the Gaza Strip, Wray painted a stark picture of the potential for such overseas incidents to embolden domestic terrorism. We need all the tools, people, and resources required to tackle these threats and keep Americans safe, Wray emphasized, highlighting the urgency of the situation facing law enforcement agencies tasked with safeguarding the nation's security. The FBI director's sobering warning echoed concerns that individuals or small groups inspired by events in the Middle East could seek to carry out attacks on American soil. One particular focus of concern for Wray and law enforcement agencies is the terrorist organization ISIS. The arrest of Alexander Mercurio in Idaho earlier this month underscored the ongoing threat posed by individuals radicalized by extremist ideologies. Mercurio, an 18-year-old, allegedly pledged allegiance to ISIS, sought to provide material support to the group, and planned attacks on churches in Idaho.
After years of planning, Alexander Mercurio sits in Kootenai County Jail tonight, awaiting his first appearance in federal court.
Man from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho is in federal custody, charged with supporting ISIS and planning a suicide attack on churches.
Now, the U.S. attorney says he was arrested the day before he allegedly planned to attack.
Alexander Mercurio shared his plans on social media with other people he thought were ISIS sympathizers.
His case serves as a chilling reminder of the potential for homegrown extremism to manifest in violent acts targeting communities across the country. Wray also highlighted the growing concern over the possibility of coordinated terrorist attacks within the U.S., drawing parallels to recent international incidents like the ISIS-K attack on the Crocus City Concert Hall outside Moscow, which claimed the lives of more than 140 people. The director's testimony underscored the gravity of the threat posed by terrorist groups like ISIS and al-Qaeda, which have renewed calls for attacks on American soil. Responding to a question from Rep. Hal Rogers, who chairs the House Appropriations Committee, Wray emphasized the unity of purpose among terrorist organizations in their desire to inflict harm on the U.S. Despite their differences, these groups share a common goal of instigating violence and chaos within the country's borders. Wray's remarks underscored the need for vigilance and collaboration among law enforcement agencies to counter the multifaceted threat posed by terrorism. In addition to addressing domestic terrorism concerns, Wray urged Congress to renew the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, emphasizing its critical role in national security efforts. FISA enables intelligence agencies to gather essential information to prevent terrorist attacks and protect the country's interests. With the looming expiration of key provisions of the Act, Wray stressed the urgent need for congressional action to ensure the continued effectiveness of surveillance efforts.
The reality is that the terrorism threat has been elevated throughout 2023.
Key law in the fight against terrorism. The FBI director went to Capitol Hill to urge lawmakers to renew the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act.
But the ongoing war in the Middle East has raised the threat of an attack against Americans in the United States.
I can tell you that's going to most definitely have consequences for our ability to protect the American people.
Furthermore, Wray highlighted the threats posed by U.S. designated terrorist groups Hezbollah and Hamas, which have targeted American interests in the Middle East. Their actions represent a direct challenge to U.S. security and require a comprehensive response from law enforcement and intelligence agencies. The FBI director's testimony underscored the complex and dynamic nature of the terrorism threat landscape facing the U.S. In an era marked by global interconnectedness and rapid technological advancements, the challenges posed by extremist ideologies require adaptive and proactive strategies to mitigate risks and protect the public. In light of these challenges, Ray emphasized the importance of maintaining robust partnerships with international allies and leveraging intelligence sharing mechanisms to stay ahead of emerging threats. Additionally, he stressed the need for continued investment in counterterrorism capabilities and the development of innovative strategies to address evolving threats in the digital age. Elevated threats and urgent calls. FBI Director Christopher Wray's recent testimony before the House Appropriations Committee sounded an alarm bell regarding the heightened risk of terrorist attacks on U.S. soil. Wray's apprehensions stem from the potential replication of the Russia concert hall shooting in the U.S., an event that claimed over 130 lives. Highlighting the immediate concern of individuals or small groups drawing inspiration from events in the Middle East to orchestrate attacks domestically, Wray urged Congress to reauthorize Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. Wray's testimony underscores a broader trend of escalating threats to public safety and national security, representing a unique challenge faced by law enforcement agencies.
If we're blinded from seeing what our adversaries are doing, who they're working with, positioning on American infrastructure in preparation to wreak havoc and cause real-world harm.
Congress is set to take up a bill related to our national security today.
The most pressing national security threats that what we face and what we're doing to tackle them are always important.
The contentious debate surrounding FISA renewal reflects broader societal debates over privacy rights versus national security imperatives. Former President Trump's vocal opposition to the FISA bill, coupled with calls from conservative lawmakers to amend the legislation to safeguard privacy rights, underscores the polarizing nature of surveillance laws. Civil liberties groups, including the ACLU, have raised objections to the potential ramifications of FISA reauthorization, expressing apprehensions about mass, warrantless surveillance of both Americans and foreigners. The intersection of national security concerns, legislative deliberations, and civil liberties underscores the multifaceted nature of contemporary security challenges. As policymakers navigate the intricacies of surveillance laws and counterterrorism strategies, the balance between safeguarding individual freedoms and protecting national interests remains a contentious issue. In the face of evolving threats and geopolitical tensions, the imperative for robust security measures is clear. However, achieving consensus on the most effective approach while upholding constitutional principles remains an ongoing challenge. Wray's testimony serves as a stark reminder of the ever-present threat posed by terrorism and the need for proactive measures to safeguard the nation's security. Impact on New York City's migrant crisis. In the midst of New York City's escalating migrant crisis, Mayor Eric Adams has been quick to point fingers, placing the blame squarely on Texas Governor Greg Abbott. However, a closer examination of the situation reveals a more complex narrative, one that implicates not only Abbott, but also the Biden administration's immigration policies. Adams' challenge to Abbott, daring him to spend a night in an NYC migrant shelter, was met with a swift response from Abbott, who accused Adams' sanctuary city policies of exacerbating the border crisis. While tensions between local and state officials escalate, it is essential to dissect the root causes of New York City's migrant influx. Recent revelations from the Center for Immigration Studies shed light on the Biden administration's clandestine immigration programs, which have facilitated the arrival of over 33,000 illegal immigrants directly to the New York region from foreign airports.
Abbott's continuing use of migrants as political pawns is not only chaotic and inhumane.
It's not going to get any better. From this moment on, it's downhill.
They want to welcome them in until they actually do come in. And then when they come in, they say, no, we don't want.
They cannot work to provide themselves. We have to provide food, shelter, clothing, cleaning, education, health care.
This influx, accounting for 22% of the city's migrant population, underscores the administration's role in shaping the crisis. One such immigrant, Haitian national Pierre Lucard Emile, arrived in New York under the administration's Immigrant Flights program, only to face serious criminal charges, highlighting the potential risks associated with unchecked immigration. While Adams continues to single out Abbott for criticism, it is evident that the Biden administration bears a significant share of responsibility for New York's migrant challenges. By failing to enforce border laws and implementing flawed immigration policies, the administration has created a conducive environment for the surge in illegal immigration. The administration's secretive CHNV program, launched without congressional authorization, has facilitated the influx of immigrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and other nations directly into the U.S. Despite concerns raised by civil liberties groups, the program has expanded to include additional nationalities, exacerbating the strain on local resources. The administration's use of humanitarian parole provisions under the Immigration and Nationality Act has enabled the mass influx of immigrants, bypassing traditional channels and evading public scrutiny. The lack of coordination with local authorities and taxpayers further compounds the challenges faced by cities like New York, which must bear the burden of accommodating thousands of new arrivals. While Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida has raised alarms about the lack of transparency surrounding these flights, Mayor Adams' reluctance to confront the Biden administration reflects a broader pattern of political posturing. Despite the potential impact on public safety and resource allocation, Adams' focus remains fixed on partisan blame shifting rather than addressing the root causes of the crisis. In light of these revelations, it is imperative for local leaders like Adams to prioritize transparency and accountability in their dealings with federal authorities. By advocating for greater oversight and reform of immigration policies, Adams can better serve the interests of New Yorkers and mitigate the adverse effects of unchecked migration. Ultimately, the migrant crisis in New York City underscores the need for a comprehensive and collaborative approach to immigration reform, one that balances humanitarian concerns with national security imperatives. Only through concerted efforts at the federal, state, and local levels can meaningful solutions be achieved to address the complex challenges posed by illegal immigration. That's all for this video, folks. See you next time.